folks, welcome back to GaleForceWins. This is a auspicious occasion for GaleForceWins because we have been invited to attend the Encore Summit, which is going to be happening in St. John's, Newfoundland on April 8th. And the Encore Summit is focused on exploring the value of older workers in today's workforce. That is very exciting for Alan and I to be part of it. Enough about the introduction and me talking. I want to throw it over to Ron Taylor, who's going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about what he does. We'll explore his journey, and then we're going to dig right into what this summit is all about because it's one of his brainchilds. Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you, Jerry. Well, I'm Ron Taylor. I'm the Director of Strategy for Connections for Seniors. Connections for Seniors has been around since about 2018, and we focus on older adults in Newfoundland and Labrador and their journey, their aspirations, and the opportunities that can be had with them as part of society.
Well, it's interesting. We've had lots of discussions with Ron, but Ron, tell us a little bit about the impetus for this particular summit and why it's important.
Thank you. Well, if you watched the news recently, you've seen our premier stand up and talk about all the great opportunities that are coming to our province. We've got approximately, we've got a number of medical projects that are coming our way, and the premier himself is saying that we're going to need about tens of thousands of jobs to fill those roles. And when we look at our province as a whole, that's great. It's great to have the opportunity, but if you look at Newfoundland and Labrador, we have the oldest population in the country. As of 2010, which was the last major census done by the federal government, we had a population at that time was 510,000 people, and 123,000 of them were over the age of 65. But the interesting stat was there's another 123,000 people between the age of 50 and 64 who theoretically become seniors by 2036. So when we started looking at that group of people, what's happening with them, we said, okay, well, they are theoretically going to be retiring.
Yeah.
Who's replacing them? And we looked and said, well, who's the group that's coming in behind them? It's 68,000 younger people who are students. Well, if you're replacing 123,000 with 68,000, well, that's a gap of 58,000 people of working age, not actual workers, but working age. So if you take the participation rate in the workforce from that group, you're looking at about 38,000 workers. So that's a gap of 38,000 people in the workforce by 2036 before you even talk about the needs, what we're going to have for these mega projects.
When you told us this, it's staggering because, well, GaleForceWins, we've traveled all over the island and we hear that I think the numbers, we need another 25,000 workers. So now what you're telling us, the existing workforce is going to decline by about 38,000?
Potentially. Yeah. It will be offset by things like immigration.
Right.
We've had a very aggressive, somewhat successful program with immigration in this province. I wish we'd bring in more people, but Ottawa won't let us.
Yeah.
Ideally, although people may agree with me, I think we should be bringing in 10,000 immigrants a year here. One of the reasons for it is that we know that after 5 years, about only 50% of them remain here in Newfoundland and Labrador. They go to other places. So right now, if we're bringing in 2,000 immigrants a year, it's a net gain of 1,000 people. So let's just assume for a second that all those people are of working age that are coming in here. Over a period of 15 years, that's about 15,000 people. It's probably going to be more around 12 if you take their children out and everything else. So you're taking that 38,000, you're still down to 26,000, which is more than 10% of the workforce.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about existing companies that are operating today at their existing level, not growing, just where they are. They won't be able to fulfill their labor needs. Now, we know we've tried to offset that with temporary foreign workers, but that's pretty much come to an end. That the sunset clause is set on that, and that's not going to be the opportunity it once was for us. And as I understand, is in areas where unemployment is over 6%, you can't get foreign temporary workers, and City of St. John's is 7%.
So we're going to explore the value of older workers, and are we going to talk about in the summit, how the older workforce could potentially stay on longer? Give us a little sense of where you think you're going to take the conversations.
That's the idea, is that a lot of workers, when they get into what was traditionally the twilight of their career, they start getting phased out of the workforce. A lot of times not even by their own choice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ageism out there in society. where they feel that once people get to a certain point in life that their value is diminished. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because older workers can be great mentors for younger workers. So, and we're finding older workers that a number of them are looking at the latter part of their career saying, well, I don't have a pension. I really can't afford to retire. I'd like to look at an opportunity to upgrade, upskill myself, and extend my career. And there's a lot of people today who are working over the age of 65, even 55. Japan, by 2030, 40% of the workforce is going to be over the age of 55. The United States, back 20 years ago, it was 11% of people working over the age of 65. By 2036, they figure it's going to be approximately 40%, 35%, sorry.
You know, it's interesting, and the reason why I like working with you and helping, you know, get the thought leadership out around this, the older workforce. When I was the sales manager in St. John's at a car dealership, first time I had been, and most of my career was in the newspaper business and digital media. When I did that, you know what, Ron? So many seniors would go from car dealership to car dealership to car dealership. And they would be very frequent, like every couple of weeks. And I'd end up having chats with people early in the morning, and I'd say, you know, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I retired, you know, 3-4 years ago. It's January. Summer's great. January, February, March. Yeah. Anyway, what really struck me was that some of these people would wander around car dealerships talking to sales reps and things. And it really struck me how important it is to have a purpose, right? I love the way you're going with
You
this.
got to have the direction, and there are a lot of people we have that have spent a good part of their life being a productive member of society, and they're just not ready for that journey to stop. And when I talk to, and I've talked to a good majority of the employer groups, industry associations, government at the federal, provincial, municipal level, and I've said to all of them, when we sit down and have this conversation, and they go, wow, what are we going to do about that? So there's talk about it, but we don't really have a plan as such. Is because the interesting thing about Newfoundland and Labrador, and Canada in general, if you're under the age of 30 and you have a career challenge, you're out of a job, you're looking to upgrade yourself or upskill yourself, there are dozens of opportunities if you can do it. If you're over the age of 50, there's virtually none. So we haven't looked at that, and we have to now, because the economic prosperity of this province is dependent on keeping people in the workforce as well as building up the workforce from outside.
Well, it's brilliant. I mean, it's such an important thing, and you're right. I mean, I was at the Heavy Civil Association last week, and the Premier spoke, and he talked about all of the projects. And there is angst within the business community about where are we getting all these people. Your summit is so timely. It's so timely. How long have you had this in your head?
I think I started about 2 years ago, and you know, I've looked at it from a number of standpoints, because when I go out to rural Newfoundland and talk to people, they're concerned about the communities dying out, and there's no one there to work, and how are we going to keep the businesses open? And even in our sector, when we talk about dealing with seniors, is that in rural Newfoundland, the services that are going to be provided for seniors are going to be provided by other seniors.
Yeah.
So we have to train those people for those jobs. And when someone asks me, well, where are the people going to come from? I say, well, to give you an example. Take someone that may have worked in a fish plant, seasonal work most of their life. Hard work. Concrete floors, 10, 12 hours a day, maybe seasonal, but it's pretty hard work. And the point, they just can't do it anymore. How difficult is it to take that person and retrain them? And when I say retrain, I'm not talking about sending someone back to university or college for 2 years. I'm talking micro-credentials. I'm talking 4-week, 6-week courses where we can upgrade or upskill that person and transfer that fish plant worker maybe into tourism, maybe into home care. All right, so that's the idea, is that we're not trying to make 80-year-olds work 60 hours a week. We're giving an opportunity for the people that still want to work, whether it's part-time or full-time. A lot of the younger people that are in that age group of 50 to 60, 64 today, they're going to probably want to still work full-time. Maybe at a point in their career, they want to go part-time or seasonal. Yes. The idea here is not to tell people what they have to do, but give them the opportunity to do it.
Well, you know what else I like about this? You know, you're talking about people who don't necessarily need to do this. That's a different worker entirely. They want to do this. Tell me a little bit about what you think of that. You know, an employer who's looking at someone who wants to go to work as opposed to needs to go to work. There's a difference.
There sure is. And, you know, I don't think that employers have really seen the full value of that older workforce as the mentors for those younger workers. And you're right. I mean, there's lots of people. I'm an example. You're probably an example. I mean, we're at the later part of our career. We're not slowing down. My father is 89 years old. He stopped working full time last year.
Yeah.
And he still works part time and volunteers now. And his whole methodology in life is you keep going as long as you keep moving. And I take that very seriously. In my case, you know, I exited from a very successful career in the technology sector here a number of years ago. And I want to look at something else to do. And I looked at our population as an opportunity in the sense that, you know, Newfoundlanders were known for ingenuity, hardworking. I'm going, why would you discourage that? Why would you not try and embrace that? Why would you not try to put together something to help communities build, to help employers fill their labor gaps, to help this province prosper as a whole?
Look, I don't know what it's like for people that are watching this. I'll just give you a little bit of my experience. So I got laid off in the pandemic and I had a 5-month window. I'd been pretty hard driving, 100% commission individual. And then all of a sudden I had a 5-month window, Ron, where I had nothing. First time in 30 years, I didn't even have a cell phone because I had a company cell phone that was taken away. Anyway, about 2 months into this, I realized I can't imagine retiring and
do what?
Well, I had this vision of reading a lot of books, and I have a lot of books at home. I got into a couple of books, and you know, you're not going to read for 10 hours a day. Anyway, there's a lot of time in a day. So I'm very passionate about what you're trying to do. Let's move a little bit into zeroing on the summit itself.
Sure.
Because first of all, it's April 8th at the Emera Innovation Centre.
Yep.
Who should attend this? Just tell us a little bit about attendance.
Yeah, I mean, it's targeted at business. It's targeted at government as to be partners in this,
yes.
And it's targeted at academia. I'm referring to Memorial University, but just as much so, if not more, Keene College, College of Atlantic, because these are the people that are going to be delivering these services. Because we have to get beyond our traditional way of looking at education. I've been very much part of the Education Accord for the last year on their committee and talking about older workforce and getting some things in their final document. But when we think of education, we think of bricks and mortar. You come through the front door and you learn. It's very structured, or okay, classes are in September.
Right.
All right, and this is the way it runs. Well, that's not the way the world runs. The world it's not structured. It's structured on opportunity. So in my conversations with Craig Tucker, for instance, of Keene College, and Craig and I know each other from a number of years in the tech sector and other opportunities, that we have to be more mobile, we have to be more nimble, is that wherever the opportunity is where you have to go. And even if you look at the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, the immigration population control, I always say that, population growth and skills, they got like 16 offices, and they can play a part in working with business. The idea is that if you have a business and you have 100 employees, and let's just say for the sake of it, 30 of them are in, their senior years, then you don't want to send those 30 people to St. John's for 6 weeks. You can't afford to. But you could certainly take them for 1 or 2 days a week and have someone come from outside and teach in your place of work. And that's where education changes. That's where it evolves. It evolves from, okay, we've got bricks and mortars come in the front door. Online learning is going to be a big part of it. AI is going to be a big part of it. Is that, that's kind of the Wild West right now, but you can see that that's going to be play a big part in learning in the future. So I think that being able to reach out wherever those people are, whether they're, in the greater St. John's area, I think we've got that pretty covered well, but rural Newfoundland, there's gaps. Yeah. What if you get into somewhere remote like Labrador? How do you deliver services there? So it's going beyond our traditional thoughts on education.
Well, shout out to you, as you and I are both older workers, and you told me before we hit record that you did, you're doing part of an AI micro-credential, I guess.
Yes, sure,
through Keene College. Good on you for that.
Never too old to learn.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people, and would see a senior or an older worker. Oh, they can't turn on a computer. Well, I think there's a lot of older workers now that know a lot about that stuff, and kudos to you for doing that. Tell me a little bit about you've got a guest speaker.
Got some great guest speakers. We've got you guys are going to be part of that. We're going to be one of our panels. Thank you very much. We've got Lisa Taylor from the Challenge Factory, and Lisa's got a great background in talking about how the workforce is evolving, and specifically how the aging workforce is going to play a huge role in society going forward for driving opportunities. Because this problem is not unique to Newfoundland. We're probably the canary in the coal mine here in Canada because we've got the oldest population. But it's been going on around the world. Yeah. The G7 countries have it. Japan, South Korea went through this 25, 30 years ago. They put in some affirmative action programs. Over 30% of their seniors are working today. So I think that we don't look upon this as, oh my God, it's just something new. It's not. So there's lessons to be learned that are out there where people have already been through this.
Well, I just want to make a comment about Lisa Taylor. I met her just before Christmas. Alan and I were in Toronto, and one thing about her is she transformed, and I'm going to speak for Alan because he's told me this, she transformed his outlook. And I'll never forget, he called me one day and he was different. And it was her. Lisa had given him some cues as to how to interact with people in your life. Anyway, it was fascinating. In fact, we told her part of the reason that GaleForceWins exists is because of what she did. She has breathed a lot of life into us. So I'm really excited that you got her coming in for that. I think she's something else. So the panel, just touch on that a little bit because I'm pretty excited about that. I may be behind the scenes doing the technical side of things, but so you're going to have panels, and we're going to have GaleForce doing one of those panels.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the whole idea of the conference too is the conference is not set up to be in a silo by itself.
Right.
There's been a lot of work that was done by government long before I showed up. And I've spent the last 2 years meeting with just about every major industry player, government group, labor group in this province, or at least having outreach to them in the sense that to get to the point where we are now, that was the first point. The summit is the launch point. And then the summit is the opportunity to drive the next phase of it. The next phase is to bring all of these people together as a stakeholder group with government, with academia to actually enact these ideas, these concepts. And I can tell you that from my meetings with government and academia and business, nobody is saying no. Yeah. They're just saying, can someone take the lead on this because we really need to do this. So we're stepping up. It's not our initiative. It's our initiative as a province and all the people in it. So the idea of this stakeholder group is you all come together and you're able to work together collectively under one umbrella towards a common cause.
Well, we'll clue it up now. I mean, this is intended to let people know about the summit. What you're seeing here is leadership at its finest. We say that a good bit on GaleForceWins because we seek out leaders. I really like what you just said. Someone has to step up. Well, you are perfectly equipped for that. We're going to do more of a deep dive with Ron at the event itself. We're going to be there. We're going to ask people to sit and talk about these issues. Thought leadership is incredibly important. Some people just say, Ron, talk is cheap. Well, not really. You really come together. You're bringing people together. A final word on, what this means for action for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, it's the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. I mean, if we're going to prosper as a province, as a people, we have to be able to deliver on what business needs and creating the opportunities for people to live and work in this province and create a greater place for our children and our grandchildren. It's all up to us, and we have the opportunity to do this and make us a better place to live and work.
There you have it. I am so excited. April 8th, the Encore Summit, powered by Connections for Seniors. It's at the Emera Innovation Centre, and it's talking about value of older workers to the workforce.
Hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.